Hello and welcome to another live lesson. AM Language's 4 o'clock lesson in the afternoon with me, Richie. So welcome to today's lesson. I'll just turn it just a little bit more. Yes, I think that is the best angle we can go for. So welcome to today's lesson. I hope all of you are doing well. Today, the topic is going to be covering the basics. Leondina says, hi, Richard. Good afternoon, Leondina, and welcome to today's lesson. Thank you very much for joining. Irina F, you too, welcome. Thank you for joining, as always. So, guys, if you do want to follow the lesson, whether you're watching this now or later, make sure you follow the live chat comments because all the action happens there. As always, as well, please like and share the video. And if you want to know more about how you can actually have physical lessons at AM Language in Malta, please click on the links below, especially the one that takes you to our website. If you're watching later, you can fast forward today, maybe the first 3 to 4 minutes, and we will then get into things. Yesterday, we had a successful lesson. We were looking at mixed conditionals, and we went through the stages of looking at the second conditional, then the third conditional, and then we finished off with the mixed conditional. That lesson was an accuracy-based lesson. It would take you to the ability of knowing how to construct a sentence. It would take you to the ability of understanding that type of sentence. But then there's a greater question of when to use it, how to use it, in terms of an overall context as well. Now, when we look at covering the basics today, we will look at some simple things as well as some more other aspects of communication. Really and truly, the basics that we are going to look at today is trying to make ourselves understood. Doesn't matter how complicated, whatever it is, doesn't matter how complicated it is. It's remembering the basics of making sure of how we can be understood. And that's really the important thing. It's this is going to be somewhat of a blend. It's still going to be more accuracy based rather than fluency, but it's a question of building language, making sure that we're still doing the basics. Now, tomorrow is going to be dedicated to writing, but today this is the techniques we are going to look at today. Granted, we have to focus on writing because of the live chat, but they can be applied to speaking as well. And the way this is going to work today is a bit of a build-up. We're going to go through the stages of building language, whereby we're going to take a simple sentence and we're going to try and make it, more complicated as we go along. How can we add elements of grammar to it? So this lesson will start easy, and as the lesson continues, it will gradually increase in difficulty. But it doesn't matter. You could be a low level, elementary, pre-intermediate, and you will be able to follow a lot of it. But there'll be plenty of things as well that will challenge people of a higher level, be it up intermediate, intermediate or upper intermediate. So we will gradually progress through. It's going to be a little bit challenging and mistakes will probably be made along the way, but don't worry. This only really works if we are prepared to make mistakes. Alida, good afternoon. Welcome to today's lesson, and buenos dias from where you are in the world as well. I'll give people. We're going to start in the actual lesson in just another in about 10 seconds. What I would like to say, guys, is that don't forget that tomorrow is Thursday, so we're going to look at writing skills, and Friday it's going to be music English, but with a slight emphasis on the language point of prepositions. So let's begin covering the basics. We're going to start simple and we're going to work our way up. We're going to start off, I would say, in terms of, we're going to look at the focus in terms of, we have to remember the tense that we are writing in as well. And generally speaking, I like to start off just by focusing on the past tense form, mainly because there are more things to think about when we are using the past tense form. So the trick here is I'm going to write a sentence. Well, I'm going to demonstrate it to you, okay, guys? I'm going to demonstrate it to you, and we're going to slowly build and build and build. So, for instance, I might write something like this, okay? So I might write this, okay? Active sentence, past tense, and topic is shopping, and we have to use, sorry, past simple, not present simple, past simple, and you're going to have to use the past simple. So you guys, you are free to choose a lot of language here. We are then going to slowly, gradually add and add. So remember the sentences you write previously. It's going to be a bit of a chain. So the way I might write would be, I went to the shop and bought, and bought some wine. Okay, and that would be my active sentence. I've now written that. So the next thing that's going to add is this. So I would then write, okay, so building on your last sentence, add another sentence in the continuous form. Okay, so building on your last sentence, add another sentence in the continuous form. Okay, so now I have to think a little bit. So I went to the shop and bought some wine. I was looking for some French wine, but I couldn't find. I was looking for some French wine, but I couldn't find. No, I'm not going to go with that. I was looking for some wine, and let's go with actually. And I found a nice bottle for 12. Let's go with euros, because that's what we're using. 12 euros. Okay, so I went to the shop and had bought some wine. That was my first sentence. Second sentence, I was looking for some French wine and I found a nice bottle for 12 euros. What have I done there? I started off, I now have two sentences. I completed the first task correctly by creating a past simple. I then had to create a second sentence, and in this second sentence, I had to continue from that first sentence, but I had to introduce a continuous sentence. Okay, right. Now I'm going to add a third one. So I would then write, for instance, building on the last two sentences, add a third sentence in the passive. Oh gosh. Okay, now I have to add a passive. So I'm gradually making it more and more difficult. I'm having to build on from that first sentence. So what can I do now? I could then say, now it hasn't told me, I haven't put in that I have to keep it to the past simple or past perfect. I need to make some form of a passive. That's all I need to do. So I could say the wine was in, let's see, let me spell that. Okay, so then I could write something like this. I am showing my wine knowledge here at the same time. So I've got the first sentence in the past simple. I've then got the second sentence, which is an active form as well. And I've introduced a continuous. Now I've had to add a third sentence, but I had to use a passive. So now I need to think, right, how do I add a passive to this sentence, to this paragraph that we are building? So I've written, the wine was produced, which is my passive, in Burgundy, and the grape was Pinot Noir. Okay, so in this case, I've successfully achieved all three tasks. And the first sentence, the second sentence, and the third sentence all nicely link. So this is the activity that we are going to do. So let's start again. And this time for you guys, I'm going to go with something similar, but I'm going to change the topic. And what we're going to do here for the topic, I think what we're going to do is it's going to be to do with travel of some kind. So over to you guys. Okay, let's slowly build our sentences and let's see if we can keep things going here. Now, you don't have to base this off a real experience. That is not the requirement. But for you guys, this is now the task. You guys need to write an active sentence. It needs to be the past tense. The topic is travel, and it needs to be a past simple. Okay, so that's the first task. Let's see how you guys do, and we'll slowly and but gradually make this a little bit more difficult as we go along. Like I've shown you in the live chat, we're going to start off with the basics and then we're slowly going to make things a little bit more complicated. But as we go along, we need to add different grammar structures. When we say, for instance, and don't forget, you can start adding in a sentence, you might have to link two ideas together. But if I ask you to use a continuous, one of those, as some part of your sentence needs to complete that that element. So let's see what you guys go for. So a leader has written, I visited Disney with all my family last year. So that's a really good start, our leader. You've come in with a past simple. It's to do with travel. And that's a good start to the task that we are going to do. Let's see. Let's give a chance to maybe Leondina and Irina F and anyone else watching to see how they can do this. And then we will continue from there. Like I said, guys, this is going to be easy for the first two rounds, and then we're going to slowly increase the difficulty level. Leondine has come out with 2 years ago. I went to Australia and spent here 3 fabulous weeks. Can you just tell me, Leondina, because I think that's probably a typo. Do you mean there? Do you mean there? If you are putting there, you don't need there. You can just say, 2 years ago, I went to Australia and I spent 3 fabulous weeks. You don't need there. there would be extra. You don't need it. I'm guessing that's there. Here would only make sense if we're talking about if you were in Australia. So we would have to go there rather than here. That's what I'm guessing anyway. Okay, right. So we've got our first sentence. Anyone else who wants to come in later, please do. You're welcome to do so. Now, let's up the difficulty level. Okay. So building on that, let's go for the next one. So building on your last sentence, add another sentence in the continuous form. Now you are in the past, so this is going to have to be a past simple tense. And don't forget, it's got to go with your first sentence. So if we go with a leader's one, for example, I visited Disney with all my family last year. That's the end of the first sentence. The next sentence has to link with that first sentence, but it now needs to be in a continuous form. If you want to see how you could write the sentence, please look at at the example that I had written at the start of the lesson. And let's see how you guys get on. Okay. So I'll give you a bit of time to think of how you're going to link it. And like I say, guys, the first two are probably the easiest, and then this is just going to become a little bit harder. So Sandra has come in. Welcome today, Sandra. Thank you for joining us. So Sandra has written, I was in Spain last summer, so that would be your first sentence. And the second one that links to the first is, I was looking for some interesting places and I found a wonderful village nearby Madrid. Nearby Madrid. Now, I would say this, and this is a really small thing here. You haven't lost any meaning in terms of what you've gone for, but when you use the term nearby, you don't need, put this way, we don't necessarily need to add the place name when we use nearby, because we already know the place name. So if you're going to go with Madrid, I would suggest you can just go a wonderful near a village near Madrid. If you wanted to use nearby, again, nearby is really close to where you live in some sort of way, almost within it. So if for that kind of thing, and the fact you've put Madrid afterwards, when you use, like I said, when you use nearby, you don't need to necessarily put the place name. But that's because usually when we use nearby, we already know the location that we're talking about. So I would just remove by and just go with village near Madrid. That would be excellent. Leondine has come in. When I was visiting Kangaroo Island, oh, Kangaroo Island, okay, I saw many kangaroos and seals. Okay, so just remind ourselves of your first sentence, Leondina. 2 years ago, I went to Australia and I spent 3 fabulous weeks. When I was visiting Kangaroo Island, I saw many kangaroos and seals. Okay, so that goes nicely. Alida's written, while we were enjoying the parks, we found out that a hurricane was near Orlando. Okay, right. Really good sentence. It follows from the first one, which is to do with I visited Disney with all my family last year. While we were enjoying the parks, we found out that a hurricane was near Orlando. Good sentence there. What I would say is, Alida, and this is a small little thing, because you started your sentence with while we were enjoying the parks, comma, we found out that a hurricane was near Orlando. It goes back to a punctuation lesson that we had done a while ago, but that's the only thing that you need to include there. Really good. Okay, so all of you so far are doing really well and your sentences are flowing nicely. Now, let's go with the next one. You can probably guess what I'm going to ask you. because I'm following a similar pattern to my demonstration. So we're now going to try and introduce the first level of what I would call something that's going to be a little bit difficult, which is building on the last two sentences, add a third sentence in the passive. I would say, please write your whole paragraph now. Try and include your whole paragraph, just so it's a little bit easier I'm going to move my hand, just so it's a little bit easier to follow. But now this is the passive, so don't forget you need your verb to be in the past, and then you need the past participle, such as was found, was made, for example, was produced, word discovered, you name it. It's going to have to be that passive voice. Let's see how you guys can link the first two sentences with this third sentence, which now needs to be in a passive. And we're going to slowly climb up the ladder of difficulty, and we're going to slowly try and bring all these different grammar points that you will know and you could do on their own, but can you make them fit together like a building, really, or like a jigsaw. So this is you could call it jigsaw grammar building, I suppose. But the principle of this works not just for writing, it works also for speaking as well. But the way it's done is just a little bit different. I would say it's easier than speaking because you have a bit more time to think. Yeah, you have a bit more time to think, which is why writing can be a little bit easier. This activity, when done in terms of a speaking activity, can be a little bit challenging, definitely. So let's see what you guys come out with. So building on the last two sentences, add a third sentence in the passive. Let's see what you guys do. If any of you who are watching have any questions, please just ask me in the live chat and I'll be happy to explain or answer. Okay. And what we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up writing a series of paragraphs almost. So by the end, there's going to be some pretty, well, I would say there's going to be some challenging grammar going on by the end of the lesson. But we're still in that early stage. I mean, present, like past simple, that's something that elementary people can go straight in with, and continuous as well. That's something that even an elementary student can engage in. Now with the passive, we're now moving into that pre-intermediate level. So a leader has written, I visited Disney with all my family last year. While we were enjoying the parks, we found out that a hurricane was near Orlando. The hurricane was transformed in a tropical storm by the time it reached us. Okay, that's a really good use of the passive. Nicely worked, and it complements your first two sentences. Okay, so let's just remind ourselves with Leondina's sentences. So Leondina first wrote, 2 years ago, I went to Australia and spent 3 fabulous weeks. I've just thought, if you want to put there, you could put there at the very end of that sentence, actually. That would still work. So 2 years ago, I went to Australia and I spent 3 fabulous weeks. Your second sentence, when I was visiting Kangaroo Island, I saw many kangaroos and seals. Unfortunately, they weren't pleased to be touched. Okay, nicely worked, Leondina. Weren't pleased to be touched. Good. Okay, you've really worked that one in there, and it follows, it flows. There's connection. It's a sentence that complements the first two. So really good. Well done there. Well done. Okay, so far we're doing good. I'll give Anyone else who wants to come in, please do. I'll give you another 30 seconds or so before moving on to the next challenging element. And the next one is going to, again, we're just going to slowly up our level of difficulty here. We're still going to be in the pre-intermediate zone of learning grammar, but the application of it, applying it, maybe let's see how easy that actually is. Okay, so I'll just give you guys just a few more seconds if anyone else would like to come in with their sentences, and then we'll move on. So next sentence. So, oops. So, okay, right. I'm now going to add the next one. Let's see how you guys do. So building on the first three sentences, now add a past perfect. So now you guys have to add a past perfect. Let's see how you guys do with this one. Now, don't forget, you've got to have two finish actions here in order to add a sentence. And as always, it now needs to link with this, with the other sentences. So let's see how you guys do. Take your time. And this will bring us to the end of the first paragraph. So with this, we would have completed the first paragraph where we would have already shown a wide range of grammar. And this, which I'm going to tell you now, is a very good trick when it comes to level tests. How to show the teacher the range of your grammar while still making perfect sense. Alida has written, I had never been so scared in my whole life. Okay, wow. Okay, well, you've achieved that one. And let's just remind ourselves of your whole paragraph then. I visited Disney with all my friends last year. While we were enjoying the parks, we found out that a hurricane was near Orlando. I had never been so scared in my whole life. I almost feel that we need more to this story, so maybe we should add another sentence to this paragraph before we conclude it. I feel like there's that we're building up to something, but well done, Elida. You've successfully so far managed to complete each task, and each sentence flows nicely into the next, into one another. So like I said, guys, anyone who's watching this, if you are doing a level test, doing this kind of building block exercise, it's a really good writing exercise to show the examiner your range of vocabulary. The remarkable thing is within this first paragraph that we are writing, this is something. Each grammar point is something you would learn at some point at elementary and pre-intermediate. But to put them all together like we're doing, that is not always easy. This is this test, putting language together like this is something that you don't always see at intermediate, and even at upper intermediate, we don't see it. But this is how you build your paragraph structure in order to show your range of your knowledge of language. It's really important to know how to do. Leondina has put, anyway, I had spent a nice day. In the island. Okay, let's have a little look. So let's just remind ourselves, Leondina, of your sentence. So We've got 2 years ago, I went to Australia and I spent 3 fabulous weeks there. While we were enjoying the parks, we found out that a hurricane was near Orlando. The hurricane was uh, unfortunately, they weren't pleased to be touched. Anyway, I had spent a nice day in the island. Okay, there's just two things that I'm going to say there because the meaning of the sentence is there, and we can give you a tick because you've used the past perfect. The first thing I'm going to say is the word anyway. If we're going to use anyway at the start, we're going to have to put a comma afterwards. But I would say a better alternative to anyway would be maybe something like, despite that, that would be a good alternative to anyway. But when you use that type of language at the start of the sentence, put a comma. The other thing is don't forget the preposition of island. On the island. Okay? So that's just another thing. On the island. I know it can be a bit confusing because we would say in Malta, not on Malta, but we would say on the island of Malta. Whenever you see the word island, you need the you're going to have to use the preposition on. So on and island always go together. So let's look at Sandra's sentence. Sorry, not sentence, paragraph. I was in Spain last summer. I was looking for some interesting places and I found a wonderful village near Madrid. Well done. The village looked like a historical movie. I had never seen such a beautiful place. Okay, so in this sentence here, in this paragraph here, you've got the past simple, tick. Past continuous, tick. You've got the past perfect at the end, tick. The only bit is the village looked like a historical movie. That's still past, that's still an active past simple. In order to change that into a passive, I'm just going to demonstrate for you now. Village, and I would say here, maybe we go with, let's see, the village had been done up in a historical. The village looked like a historical movie. Okay, right. Let me just change it. Let's see. Maybe we can do this. Hmm. So this, Sandra, is how you could achieve all four tasks, okay? Because we needed the passive. So I've taken the first part and then I've just added the second part to it using a past perfect passive. So the village looked like a historical movie, and on several occasions it had been used as a film location. That way you get to tick off the passive. Okay, guys, we're doing well here. Let's move on to the next one. And for this, we're going to try and go with a new paragraph. Now, the thing about the new paragraph is it's still in some way connected. So the theme is there, but we're now going to change our focus. So it's still the theme of travel in some sort of way, but now we're going to shift our attention into a different realm. to a different area of this travel experience. Okay, so the topic is still travel, but in paragraph 2, you have to now provide information on what others, on conversations you had. Now, this is going to be a little bit harder. We're now entering this difficult phase of reported speech. Okay, so this is now our paragraph where we're going to have to think about said, told, all that sort of thing. So let's see how you guys do. I'm now going to give you an example for this next bit, and then we'll move on from here. So, for example, we've got, okay, reported speech, we've got travel, we need to create this time we're going to go straight in with the past continuous. We're not going to go with the past simple. Okay, so you could end up writing something like this, okay? So automatically, the sentence is now just going to be a little bit longer, which is why this is now going to be a little bit more difficult. So this here, I need to have reported speech. The topic is still travel, and I need to use at least a past continuous. A lot of things to think about. It flows from, let's say, you're talking about the previous one to do with travel. I think this would be related to if you were talking about bad weather. So I've gone in straight away with my past continuous. I was talking to the receptionist about the weather, and now I'm going to use reported speech. And she told me that the weather was going to be bad all week. So not only have I used the past continuous twice, I've managed to include reported speech as well. Really important to know how to include reported speech. So let's see how you guys do. That's going to be the first thing, and then from there we're going to build on it, and we're going to start increasing the difficulty level. We're now entering the stage of we're still technically this is still pre-intermediate, but we're now at the upper end of pre-intermediate, and we're nearly entering low intermediate level. You could argue this is kind of like low intermediate. Let's put it that way. It's somewhere between pre-intermediate and intermediate. Okay, so this is now firmly in the B1 level of what you would be expected to do, but trying to link everything together, that can be difficult. So over to you guys now. Let's see how you do. So same thing, have a go. You need to use reported speech. The topic is still travel because it's related to the first paragraph, but this is now a new paragraph. And you need to use the past continuous. Let's see how you guys do. Okay, so it's still related to whatever you're talking about, but now it's you're changing the focus because this is a new paragraph. So this is now into the reported speech paragraph, really. Reported speech can be difficult. It can be difficult because you are having to report what other people have told you. You need to think about your verbs really carefully as well. Be it said, told, for example. Sometimes they can be interchangeable. It doesn't matter. Other times, maybe we need to use one more than the other. But most of the time, they can be interchangeable. So let's see how you guys do. We've got 10 minutes left of the lesson, actually. So I am going to, this paragraph is going to become difficult. But if you've remained with us for this long, you're doing well. Like I said, okay, so Leondina has come in with all the airport. I was asking the receptionist for the bus, and she gave me all the information to reach it. I think there might be one or two typos there, Leondina. Have a little think, just in case. Don't forget about your. Now, I think there's certain things we need to think about there. At the airport. Did I read all the airport or at? No, I misread it. So let me read that again. At the airport, comma. At the airport, I was asking the receptionist for the bus, and she gave me all the information to. You've put reach it here. I would say just change this a little bit by saying, because you would still need to have a little bit of that reported speech a bit. So you could say at the airport, I was asking the receptionist for the bus times for the bus for where a receptionist of where I can get the bus, for example. And she told me to go to the end of the street and gave me all the information on how to get there. I think there's extra information that you can add there. I'm going to put that in for you. And so, because the first part's fine. The bus, how to receptionist for the bus, receptionist. So I was asking the receptionist how to get a bus, and she told me that the bus station was just outside, and she gave me all the information I needed. Okay, so I would say if you add that, if you to what you had written and just change one or two things, it's going to make a bit more sense. Leondina. Alida has written, we were having dinner at the hotel when the receptionist told us that the hurricane was near the area, so we needed to stay at the room. Really good sentence, Alida. Just one thing, and that's the preposition for the room, which would be area. So we needed to stay in our rooms, or in our room, or in our room, or in the rooms. It's probably our, because you're talking about probably your bedroom that you're staying in. So just change the preposition to in and the to our, and then add the s if you are referring to more than one room. But that's a good sentence. I always get confused with prepositions. It's understandable, Alida. Prepositions are annoying, but we will be looking at prepositions on Friday. Sandra has written, I was talking with a waiter in a little restaurant about this nice village, and my impression, I think that's meant to be and my impressions about, and my impression, oh yeah, and my impressions about, and he told me that in fact 2 years ago a film was made there. Okay, nice effort, Sandra, nice effort. There's some things that we can just change a little bit. So the first thing I'm just going to change a little bit, and the village. So I was talking with a waiter in a little restaurant about this nice village. Okay. And hmm. Ah, and the impression I had of the place. You want to end it the impression I had of the place. You almost need to make that just one sentence, really, and then start a new sentence. I'm just saying this would make a bit more sense. He told me that 2 years that 2 years ago the place 2 years ago a film had been made in the village. So that's what I would do. That's the change I would make in order to complete that particular sentence, that structure. Okay, guys. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I think we've done a good building blocks here. Let me know, like the video if you've enjoyed this lesson and if this has helped you a lot. Um, what we can do is tomorrow in the writing session, we can actually continue this an element of today in terms of writing structure, and we can just up the level of difficulty where we need to. But what this has told me a lot is Sandra says long sentences are typical for Germans. Yes, I understand. It's a big difference between German and English. In English, we can write shorter sentences. So tomorrow, guys, we are going to be looking at writing. So there will be elements of today in that lesson. But now I'm just going to finish off with this. What the grammar that we've looked at is elementary, pre-intermediate, and low intermediate. Individually, someone from those levels can do this. The really difficult thing is actually linking these different sentences together, these different grammar points, making it into something that we can read and understand. That is actually quite difficult to do, and that's one of the biggest differences. But the thing is, if you follow this structure and you were to do, let's say, a level test, it would really help. You get a lot of marks straight away. It shows that you've understood how to link the different grammar points together with different ideas. So it's really important. And we can continue adding and building on this because now we're building something which is called coherence. Sandra has said, thanks, Richard. Nice lesson. Take care. Thank you, Alida, for joining, and see you tomorrow, hopefully. Neodina says, thank you, Richard, for the lesson. You're welcome. And Sandra says, bye, Richard, and good evening. Thank you, too. So Sandra, Alida, Leondina, thank you very much for your contribution today. Thank you, Irina F., because I know you are watching as well, and to anyone else who has been watching. Thank you so much. I hope you found this lesson helpful. If you have, please make sure you like the video, subscribe, and I will see you next time. See you tomorrow, 4 o'clock, and we're going to be looking at writing skills. So there will be elements that we've looked at today that we can include tomorrow. Irina says, thank you, Richard. Have a great evening. You too, guys. Take care, and bye for now.